Hello, everybody out there. This is Through a Therapist's Eyes on YouTube Live. We do this before we click the mics hot for the show that you'll hear on Apple iTunes, Spotify, the whatnot places that you get your podcasts. I would like to say that differently, everywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't like that phrase. I like
Oh, really? That's what all the other advertisement for podcasts and stuff say.
I just
They
like
name
to be different.
two, and then they say, and anywhere else that you can get podcasts.
I like to be different.
Oh, that's right.
They do. It's a thing. Anyway, this is, like I said, a great way to interact with us. We do this at Thursdays at about 6:15 or after usually. We pop on, and it's a good way to interact with us live in the show while we do the hot mic. This is what is this? Use friendships with parenting strategies. So we're going to be talking about parenting a little bit, but friendships and incorporating that in. And I have a curiosity to ask Mr. Pope, not now, sir, about his reaction when he found out the title. I think that's very curious. So you have to wait till we get to the show for that. Yeah. So what else to say on the YouTube
I
Live?
said you should be nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
You should be. No, you shouldn't be. I'm nicer than that. What else to say? I guess that's good. We're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah,
I
let's
think.
rock and roll.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes. I am your host, Chris Gazdick. We get to hang out with a panel of therapists where you get information about mental health and substance abuse, and personal time in your car and or at home. But this is not the delivery of therapy services. Victoria often reminds me. Miss Victoria Pope hanging out with us. Victoria Pope. Did you catch that?
You're my daughter. You could be my daughter.
Yeah.
Mr. John Pope, how are you, sir?
I'm doing outstanding.
And
Thank
Miss
you.
Victoria Pendergrass.
I'm good. Merry Christmas season.
It's
Oh,
the.
gosh.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Seriously.
don't even.
Oh, come on. It shouldn't
My
even
tree
start.
will probably go up in my office.
Our
next
neighbors,
week.
our neighbors have started hanging their decorations.
Okay, now I
Well-
won't hang stuff outside of my house yet.
Okay, this is
But
a good time to say
inside
this
of
is
my
November
house-
the 2nd, not December the 2nd. So, Victoria, you're in charge of the lobby. Good Lord.
That's fine. Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
I think
girl.
Casey did it last couple
We
of years.
skipped last year.
She
We didn't do
did.
anything last year
Yeah, we kind of
because
did.
that was my
It's-
first Christmas here.
That's my failure. Anyway, where am I at? Where are we at? Through a Therapist's Eyes, we are going to be talking about the use of friendships with parenting strategies. So here's some curious questions from past shows, right? Do you know what love and logic is as a parenting strategy? Do you know what the lost decade is? I think it's an original thought from me. And how can friendship be a part of parenting? Right? So I got the marriage book coming out sometime in 2024, early, but building excitement for it. Man, I'm working hard on that. Dude, there's so much that goes into that crap.
Yeah. I read your
Oh, my
excerpt
goodness.
thing on it today, which was good.
Where
you
did
read
you
it
see
well.
that? Oh, yes,
You
I
had
read
me
it
read
too.
it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure it sounded good.
Yeah,
Or sounded
yeah.
okay.
You've been so busy that you don't remember.
I don't. I'm
Yeah.
telling you that, and some other projects and things. It's fun. It's good stuff that I'm trying to bring to you out there. We need the Apple iTunes comments. We need ratings.
With 5 stars.
John.
It's got to be 5 stars.
All right.
Okay.
Really helps us out to click the subscribe buttons. Those types of things very much help us. Contact it through a therapisteyes.com to answer questions and interact with us. We love that. This is the human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out together. So, John Pope, you found out what we were doing today. Do you remember what you said?
No, I don't remember what I said. What did I say?
He says, now it's not an exact quote, so don't hold me to it, but it was something to the effect of, well, that's weird.
Yeah, that's right. I said, "What fresh hell is this?" Part of me
You know what he
says
told
that.
me?
What?
He
What'd
told
he tell
me
you?
that he said, I told Chris that I wanted to talk about free will today, but
Hmm.
instead we're talking about friendship and parenting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first I've heard. Free will. What do you mean? What is
Oh,
that?
Well, it's the idea that there's a neurologist or neuroscientist rather that's wanting to that says that we don't have any free will, that everything is predetermined, basically. And
Interesting.
yeah, and so our consciousness is basically
A
all the-
neurologist is citing this?
yeah, a neuroscientist. Yeah,
You're a
he's-
scientist. Oh,
yeah.
fascinating.
So I don't. He may be a neurologist too, but it was this, and I just think it's hokum, basically.
Well, is this a nice topic for next week, maybe?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
want to take
you want to-
charge?
Okay.
He hesitated. He was
That's
like,
a lot of work.
I don't know about that.
But yeah, I will. All
We'll
right,
talk
I'll
about
do
it. Okay.
We'll talk
Yeah, that
about
sounds
it, man.
interesting. I love neurology stuff and neuroscience stuff, and I know
Because
nothing
I like to
about what
think
you're talking
I like to think that we do have free will. But anyway,
Absolutely we do.
But
I mean, I
love
begrudge
it, love and logic. There you go. Logic is being able to make decisions. And
So, what was your response to the show in your in more
I
in,
just
in more in
I
depth?
did not know how it was going to work.
Right.
Yeah, I
Like,
had
you
no.
like his approach to it?
Your approach to it just seems
Yeah.
very different to me.
It's a fascinating thing to me that we have something as involved as raising kids. And I just thought, how could we build off of friendship? Because we haven't talked about friendship enough on this show. I said that last month, and I gave the warning. We would talk about it a little bit more because it's such a valuable part of life. And something such as you're in the middle of raising kids, Victoria, and
I'm early.
you know, early
I'm not
into
even in
that-
the middle. I'm
well,
early.
well, you'd be gone, yeah. And man, friendship is just it's an odd combination, right,
yeah,
John?
it is.
Well,
It is.
because my first thought is that there's not really any friendship in parenting.
I mean,
Well, I think now there's no friendship in parenting. I think a
Oh.
long time ago that there may have been.
Oh yeah, my mom's my best friend.
well, I don't think that's what you mean, though,
Kinda
John.
thing.
No. It's it takes a village, like Hillary Clinton wrote about. And that is that you used to have eyes in the streets and in the neighborhoods, and that these folks were like your friend. They were your friends that you knew, and if you're a parent, and then you would have would help you raise your kids in a sense. And so there was that.
Well, you know, it's interesting because there are some effects. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say her name, but I have a neighbor, and it was really curious. It was really funny because I had literally, and I told her this. I was like, I had the opportunity to hang out recently in the backyard and hadn't seen her for a little while. She moved out and everything, and I was like, I almost slipped with her name. I was like, girl, I've been wanting to say this to you for a long time, and I have not had the opportunity. But now, your boyfriend's here. It's a perfect opportunity. He's like, girl, I remember wiping your tush when you was a little kid. Right? Because they grew up together.
Uh-huh.
And we were, friends. We did. I mean, left them with them, and they left her with us. and-
Exactly.
yeah. That doesn't happen as much anymore.
I don't know. I don't think
The villages are very small.
Really?
Very small compared to like the amount of people that helped raise me and my brother, for example. Like,
See, this is the thing. Like,
and if we're considering the village to be outside of school / daycare,
Yeah,
like
I
that,
think
like
we
if we're
would.
not including that,
right.
yes, the village is very small.
It just seems like we are so much more isolated than we ever used to be as communities.
Well, and that also, we can talk more about this later, but I mean, I also got pregnant in 2021, so pandemic times, which means that I think that definitely affected the size village that at least I had for my kid.
Yeah.
One
Unless
singular.
there's something else we need to know about Victoria?
No, but I think that COVID definitely played a part in recent
Recent times.
Yeah, and kids who are 2020, so kids that are like 4 and under, I would say their villages are probably not as large, at least in my experience.
Yeah, well, COVID definitely, I think, impacted that. But honestly, I feel like, well, we'll get to talking about schedules and stuff here after a little while, because there's different ways that we operate now. We fill the schedule full, and so we're definitely going to talk about that.
Oh,
today.
yes.
Yeah, it's just it's I'm going to use the word terrible. It's a bit of a terrible reality, I think, that we struggle with nowadays. But how do we? Okay, so how do we want to start with this? First of all, I love talking about, which we haven't talked about parenting as much on the show either, one of the 3 parts of the trifecta. I love John Gottman's stuff and emotionally focused therapy. I think Dan Ramsey's stuff with Financial Peace University is fantastic. I still kind of have an intention to see what these 3 things have in common, because I think their philosophies do, with the third being love and logic.
Oh yeah, you explained to me your triangle.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Because we've hit a couple of them recently with when we talked about finances. So I'm curious, in all of your travels, especially you, John. Maybe it's a little bit more recently developed, but have you really heard of the love and logic? Do you know what that is?
No, I have no idea.
0, huh?
0.
Okay.
Um,
Victoria, have you come across this?
I think only what you've told me, and just me using my logic to figure it out.
Well, there are a few that are out there. I was at a conference and people were talking about another one, and it seemed to be pretty akin.
It sounds kind of potentially like gentle parenting.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Very similar.
Yeah, that's one of them.
And that's the big gentle parenting,
which I just don't
movement.
I don't even like the title, to be honest with you. But that's my.
Well, it's really just like respecting your
Gentle
kids,
parenting.
like they're humans.
Sometimes there ain't nothing
basically what it
gentle
means.
about parenting. I'm sorry.
I think.
So you're talking about
yes,
the board
I do
of
agree. I do agree. The term is misleading, because it basically is just what I just said, like respecting your kids like they're human beings and not like you're above them or that you're better than them. Like, that's
it's about
basically what it
relationship.
comes down to. It's not necessarily that you're like, oh, let me be gentle. It's not that. It's using. Sorry, I just like petted your knee, but it's not that type of gentle. It's more gentle in your verbiage, in your language, in not being, instead of saying things like, "Don't do that." You said, like, don't stand up in your chair, instead of yelling it, you would say something like, hey, can you please sit down in your chair? Because if you fall out of that, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And, things like that.
Right. What were you thinking, John?
Well, I was thinking about the Vulcans with the logic. So,
Okay.
so no, I have. This is evidently I'm out of the loop on this stuff. So,
Really?
Yeah. So I may be able to identify it. Just I think when you said and you gave that explanation, that's my wife and I have tried to do that with our kids to varying degrees, and we've done both. You don't stand up on your chair or the table or whatever. Don't throw things, but we could have been more gentle. And I think,
Yeah. Well, it's just being more aware of how you
well,
say
I think
things.
with these philosophies or these ideologies, these tracks of thinking are really trying to get us into a different mindset, really, about the relationship between you and your child. That to me encompasses the main thrust of what these things are.
I mean, that's what
trying to
gentle parenting is,
right?
yeah.
Because the love and logic stuff. So the way that I understand their line of logic. Let's go through it real quick to have a basis point upon what we're talking about with this parent-child relationship, right? So it goes like this. Little Johnny, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. If you pause there, people struggle a lot accepting that reality. Little Johnny, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You have the freedom. You have the flexibility. You have the learn by mistakes, all that. So you can do anything that you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else, right? And then when it causes a problem, that needs to be dealt with. So, little Johnny, you can do anything that you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else. And then the parent looks and sees, oh, Johnny, there's a problem here. It's causing a problem. Oftentimes, the little kid's like, "Oh no, not a problem. That's not an issue." But it's like, no, well, don't worry about it. I'll take care of the problem. And then you come around on the back end in your relationship with the kid to create a high structure environment with very little power struggles. That's kind of the goal, which changes the relationship that you have with the child. So, Johnny, you could do anything you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else. I see that it's causing a problem for somebody else. Okay, you didn't fix it, so don't worry about it. I'll take care of the problem.
That's what you want to do?
This is the line of logic. This is
That's
the line
control
of
issues.
Huh?
I mean, that's super controlling.
Yeah.
Well, how so? What do you mean?
Because you're not giving the kid an opportunity
There's
to
no
fix
autonomy.
their kid's
No
not
free
having
will.
an opportunity to fix it themselves.
Oh no! You better fix the problem that you created. Is
Okay.
the reality
okay,
there.
because I was hearing, no, don't worry about it. You don't fix the problem.
gonna
I'll
take
take
care of
over
this.
and fix the
Okay,
problem.
well,
That's how I
I misrepresented
Okay.
it. There's
See,
the whole
now
step of
I heard. So you and I both
I was
Yeah.
like,
understand.
wait, whoa, are you?
I definitely misrepresented
Okay.
it then. You could do anything you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem. There's a problem. You better fix that problem. And hopefully it stops there and the kid goes back and fixes the problem, i.e., he gets out of the chair from standing because he doesn't want to, cause a problem for you, taking him to the emergency room.
See,
right?
what I saw was this was going from being a very libertarian type of a position to where this would be the parent as a authoritarian.
Definitely not authoritarian at all. As a matter of fact,
It should be
back-
authoritative,
It
right?
backs off. It allows the kid to experiment with trying things, to screw up, to make mistakes,
Uh-huh.
to skin their knee, to
Okay.
fix problems, to generate solutions, to be solution oriented, and you hopefully be able to get out of the way. Because by the time you have to say, "Don't worry about it, I'll fix the problem," the kid's now like, "Oh God, what's going to happen? What are you going to do?" Because that generally, as you work with this way of operating, they don't like the solutions you come up with. It's painful to them. And so they don't want you to be involved. And you don't want to be, as a parent, involved.
Well, and part of their brain development is problem solving on their own.
Exactly.
I mean, even
Absolutely.
mine is 19 months old today.
She had-
Today.
And, yeah, today. And so
Oh,
Hey,
he-
did you get a
random.
notification?
Random. You know
now
what
I
else
was
is
looking at the date.
random? You know what else is today?
What?
This is the 250th episode.
Oh,
I forgot to celebrate that, Neil, on the front end, man.
cool.
Congratulations.
How about
Go
that,
us.
y'all? Yeah,
Go
us,
you.
right?
Yeah.
250. That's kind of an accomplishment.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
It's a decent number. It's a lot of episodes.
Yeah. There's
know?
a lot of other podcasts that haven't gotten that far.
The average is like
Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, yes, right?
Yeah, yes.
250.
But anyways, so like at home, our kid has those wooden triangle thing with like the bars where you can. It's like it's a
Wooden
It's a triangle, and it has wooden bars across it. He can climb over it,
Okay.
and there's also like a half circle one with bars across it. where
Like
he
a
can-
play set?
I'll place that.
Yeah,
kind of.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
And so he can climb over it now, but when he was learning how to climb over it, he would get stuck.
Yeah.
Like he would fall through the bars, or he would get towards the top, and then he would freak out. And if my husband ever listens to this, he's gonna laugh. We tell him all the time. We're like, okay, problem solve, even though he has no idea what we're saying.
Yeah.
But we're trying to encourage that, like, okay,
Figure it out, kid.
He might cry, but we leave him alone.
Yep.
We don't say anything. And then we
Can't rescue.
We step in when he's about to injure himself. Like if he's about
Yeah.
to seriously hurt himself. But as long as he's safe and one of us are keeping an eye on him, like we let him figure it out for himself. And 9 times out of 10, he figures it out for himself. And then he's able to like finish climbing over it without an issue.
Listen, I want to speak to you directly out there as a parent. The reality of it is we want that age-old goal to make our kids' life better than our own life as it was and as it is. And that's a fine goal. But the reality that we've fallen into way too much, you probably end up solving problems for your kids before they even know there's a problem there. And it doesn't teach them very much. We end up trying to make things too easy for them. And the struggle that you and I have created are people that Google quickly, look at their phone for solutions, and lack problem-solving skills. Victoria, I think that's a bit of a conundrum that parenting gets into. And so
Yeah.
I love that, hey, problem solver, that's a great identity
We tell
for
him
a
all
kid
the
to
time.
develop.
We're like, dude, you need problem solve.
And then we just
he'll
back
look at
up
us
and
like,
get out of the
help,
way.
and I'm just like, you got it, dude. You can
Now,
do it.
I will say that when I was a kid, I used to get into climb up trees.
We did all sorts of stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but I couldn't get down. And so I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I tell my kids all the time, figure it out. You know, what can you do? And this also, there's a very important part of love and logic that's probably a part of a lot of these different philosophies that are out there, which is compassion, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out what you're trying to figure out when you're a little kid in a wooden playset feeling stuck. So can you compassionately empathize and let the kid know, hey, I hope you don't mind, Neil. I just heard him talking to his son, right? And what did you say to your son? Hey, you got this. You'll figure it out. And his kids are older, so you still do that when they're teenagers and whatnot.
I've
Parents
got
have
a
a hard time
40-year-old.
getting out
I'm
of the
still
way.
doing that.
Yeah, well, parents have a hard time getting out of the way, John. I mean,
Yeah.
I once there's this lady that I follow on social media, and she said that she was talking about how, like, her goal as a parent is to be able to raise her kids so that they can go off and do their own thing. I can't remember exactly how she worded
Independently.
it, but yeah, like your
Independence.
goal is to raise your kids so that they can like go off and flourish and be their own person and do their own thing and not have to rely on you. And sometimes by, like what you're saying, by solving those problems for your kids or kid, like you're not teaching them how to solve their own problems when they go off by themselves. And so
100%.
then they have this like attachment issue or something to
They get
their
stuck
parent
quick.
where
Yeah.
they can't figure anything out on their own, and they're 30 or older or whatever, calling their parents, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this.
got a leaky faucet.
Instead of trying to figure out, problem solve, and then calling the parents as a last resort.
Real quick, John, before you go, what did we do Love and Logic on? Because we're going to get off of this after you're done, John. What's the show, Neil, that we did this on? A deeper dive on it, but go ahead.
Okay. Caveat to that is that just like people grow and they develop, there's going to be stages that your young person or your child, when they become an adult, will make some mistakes, and they
lot of 'em.
still have to come back and to get a refresh. In
And
other
here's the
words,
thing: when they refuse to do that, and they will,
Uh-huh.
I have several examples, and you'll hear of one where my kid took over the bonus room as his bedroom. We had to work with that. Like, you don't get to make that decision. This is a high structure environment with little power struggle as possible. You have to come in on the background. You have to come in on the back end because they're not going to want to fix their problems, and you have to get creative sometimes. So we took a deep dive. What was the, huh? Oh, wow!
Gosh.
All the way back to 15. We've done it since, though, have we not? The main one was very early on because this was one of the big ones that I wanted to cover content on this show. So episode 15, you can only get that, guys, on our website. So you have to go to throughatherapistseyes.com to get that. Craig was freaking out, the old co-host, when I presented this. Was there not another one we did with our panel?
I think I remember us
We did. I know we
it
did.
before,
I know we did.
but I have no idea what episode that would have been. Yeah, not
deep
deep
dive?
dive.
Dang. All right, we might have to redo
Yeah, as I
that.
say, we might need to do it.
Because that's part of the trifecta. But let's move on because of time. I want to get to friendship, right?
Yeah,
The Lost Decade. What do you guys remember about that?
I have absolutely no idea what that is.
there was a lost decade in the 20s that was during that was in American history with the expatriates living in Paris.
That's not what I think I'm referring to.
Right.
Or Jack Kerouac on the road during the Beat Generation in the 1950s.
That is also not what I think I was
Okay.
talking about. Any others?
No, that's the only two I can think of.
Any alien references or?
Are we
No.
talking about like an actual decade, like
So,
the 80s or the
I-
90s?
you know,
It's
I-
with the kids.
I know
They're-
what I did. We talked about this in depth with Matt Hanks. I think he was doing some co-hosting earlier on a show, so that was
Gotcha.
probably around 150 or so. That's exactly what it was. So this is new to you guys. Okay, I'm gonna try to be brief because I want to get to the friendship part, but this sets up the lack of friendships in parenting, which is I'm identifying a major problem. So this is really a personal thing that I identified
The lost
more
decade?
in my own experience of life. And then I wrapped around my professional understanding of what happens in the life cycle
You
of a family.
disconnected.
Okay, so here's what happened, John. I have always liked video games. It's something that's always been a part of my life. It's just an enjoyment, part of my self-care thing. And so I was, raising the kids, and my brother, he, over the years, he classic got on my case. Is like, oh, you're trying to be, Mr. Best Dad or Super Dad or something. I'm like, well, I don't know. I want to do right by my kids, right? So I was coaching the baseball, and I was coaching the basketball. I was doing the church activities. I'm doing the Cub Scouts. I'm turned into a Cub Scout leader, and did the baseball stuff. So we were pretty active. We were doing a lot of things, and I fell into that schedule trap that we'll talk about here in a little while. But it was involved. It takes a lot of energy. And I remember at some certain point turning around and looking like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, I'm not doing my hobbies. Like, I literally realized I had not played a video game for like 10 years. Now, that's a big deal in my self-recollection.
Are you saying that that's because you were so
Just engaged.
It was
busy
your
with your
lost.
kids?
It was
It
my
was
lost.
Your
Your
lost day.
It was my
specific-
lost decade,
Your specific lost decade,
right?
Not
Not your kiddos.
And
Yeah.
I'm wrong. We talked about this with Adam Cloninger as well on the show because he had a different time frame on when he experienced his lost decade. So there are different circumstances. But I even look at this clinically with our family life cycle. Victoria, your son is what age?
19 months.
Okay. Oh my
Today.
God. Months.
Year
I
and a
can't
half.
do that. Year and a half. Thank you. I go by years, man. Okay. Age 4 to 14 of your oldest kid under typical circumstances, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
You enter into this age when you get so engaged in all the play dates and sleepovers and
Yeah,
activities.
he can start
and-
soccer at age 2.
right. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Which, I mean, there's not much structure in that.
So
but
when I
yeah.
realized I spent all that time, John, on all those activities and stuff and really kind of lost myself in that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily totally change that because it's a great role. It's a great time of life. You're raising your kids. But the whole main idea is you've got to still be an individual.
This is a question, and that is, do you think by doing all these things with the kids and starting them with soccer and baseball and things of this sort, because I think you can also start them with some sort of a baseball even at 2 or 3.
You can start gymnastics at age
It's-
4. I do,
Now
or- I
the
know that, I
the
think.
question is that you're really not spending time with your own kiddo. You are basically
Just driving them.
teaching them skills.
Also,
And so they're going to be very athletic and very unsocialized.
or
It's true, John.
and another thing is and we don't have to talk about this if you want to, but we oftentimes I think we keep our kids so busy that they don't know what to do when they become bored.
Right.
So as they get older, when they are quote unquote bored, they can't find anything to do. It's because they've always had to follow such a strict schedule and they've always been doing something that I think that's why it's important now to like give your kids time to figure out how to entertain themselves and how to do things so that later on in life when they are quote unquote bored, they can find something to like not be bored.
Okay, this is the other thing that I think. This was the brilliant thought that I came from that you implanted into my
I'm
brain because
happy to do it.
one of the things about boredom is it's a stimulus to be creative. And
Oh, yeah.
we're not allowed to be creative as much. If you have everything done for you or you're doing all these prescribed things, it's as that great rock theologians, the Pink Floyd, saying, another brick in the wall.
Right.
You know, are you going to be just such a conformist, and that you don't have that creative thoughts? People need to be bored a little bit.
Yeah.
So that you don't just replicate over and over again what you see, monkey do.
Right.
You can get outside of the box and create solutions, create ideas, generate new patterns and new culture, really, even. Yeah, you know, teenagers do this naturally. They create their own culture. They
Yeah.
create their own words. They create their own language. So we're not losing that totally, but we do want to stimulate that
Groovy.
as best
Well, I
we
mean,
can.
so
Groovy, that's before
when I
my
get
time.
most days when I come home with my kid, if I don't have anything else to do, like errands or go to the gym or whatever, I sit on the couch and I let him play.
Yeah.
And if he wants to involve me in his play, I'll participate. But a lot of times I just watch him
Yeah.
and I let him
It's fun, isn't it?
run around the house and, you know, he wreaks a little havoc. But
Well,
that's
you know what's
okay.
cool when
But it's so awesome to like watch him play by himself and like see the things that he finds to do out of the toys that he has. And he doesn't even talk, like, and he's entertaining himself and he's laughing at himself, and occasionally he'll involve me, but like,
Well, what's cool that you see with having one child is when the kids do that together. Like
Yeah.
some of my greatest joys were just spying on them. Really, it's sitting back and just watching them do their thing, and it was really cool to see their interactions. About, you know, one was 4 and one was 7, and they'd be doing, you know, kind of creating their games and doing their thing. It's creativity. That's, you know, but you only get that if you're slow down. We probably didn't do that near enough. But let's look at schedules real quick. Was one of the types of things that we wanted to kind of look at. We've already talked about it, but what I think we're really identifying, John, you're kind of saying, you know, you're not really hanging out with your kid. Value the time, the family time, and the time with family and friends. There's a funny example of that. Have y'all watched the Ozark? You know that
my
show?
husband did, but I didn't.
Oh, it's a great show. I love it.
I couldn't make it through the first episode.
Really, because
Yeah.
it's terribly violent. But I like shows like that.
Yeah, it wasn't for me.
So the main
I don't watch TV.
the main plot, John, is this guy decides to move his family after he identifies an affair, and they go to this place called the Ozarks. It's wilderness. It's out there somewhere, and they leave Chicago and go to the
It's
Ozarks.
in Missouri.
And
Missouri, isn't
he
it?
is,
Southern Missouri.
I don't
in
remember, but
Arkansas.
he's laundering money,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets into the drug cartel, and you get into the heroin trade and all this kind of stuff. So they have these wicked, crazy family dynamics. It's over the top. It's pretty violent, but one of the things they do all throughout is they have this special, designated, and specific time for family meals. Whatever crazy thing is going on, they sit down at the table and they have their meal. I mean, somebody may have just gotten killed a half hour ago, or they've got, you know, they got to go down to Mexico for the drug cartel, but they will sit down and have like a salad, a plate, and drink and food.
That
And-
used to be called Sunday dinner.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's just valuing that. And so even in the crazy mists of the Ozarks, so if you know the show, there's a value that they put there that I thought was
Well, I mean, it's
crazy
just like
way to demonstrate
family
that.
game nights
Family
and
game
things
nights,
like that. If every
birthday
Friday,
celebrations, family culture. We're coming up on the holidays. There's a lot of things that you can do to
like
to
my
value
husband's family, at his aunt and uncle's house every Sunday dinner, and we try to make it down when we can. But it's like an open invitation. They do it every Sunday.
that. And there's
for the
some
most part. And,
crazy
like-
there's some crazy fact when you're raising kids. If you sit down at the table at least once a week, they're something like 70% more likely to stay out of jail or be successful kids or something like that. I'm totally butchering the fact, but it is a fact.
But
It's a
also, I
science
mean,
fact.
with schedules, how even as your kids get older and then they start to drive and stuff, and our schedules get so busy, crazy, you find that when you don't do things like that, you don't know what's going on in your family's lives.
Yes.
Because you're not sitting down to actually, whether it's dinner, whether it's hanging out around the TV or in the living room or a family game night, it allows you to still have that connection as like a family.
Agreed. Yeah, no, there's a lot to it. defeating the keeping up with the Joneses if you settle the schedule down and just have this Sunday meals and the stuff you're talking about there, Victoria, and also defeating parent guilt. So if you whittle that schedule down and change the priority sets, you really have multiple benefits of getting at what you really want to do, which John, you highlighted, hanging out with your little kiddo, just being in relationship with them, back and forth. And you have to slow down to allow that to happen. And we suck at that.
Well, and I think that even in today's world, that also means like putting down your phone.
Oh, there it is.
And
we all got it.
I'm not gonna admit that I don't do it because I definitely find myself
part of what we
doing, or like
scrolling
while my kid plays, and they notice that.
One of the things that I did with my kids was I was Robot Man, and Robot Man would come when they least expected it and would wrestle and play in the grass and on the ground. And I had 3 little kids hanging on me. One, my daughter Bethany, who is 40 years old now, would grab me by the neck from the back, and my son Day would take his little wooden sword and he would beat me on the leg, and Katie would go around my other leg and just hold on to my foot.
Well, you know what's funny?
Robot Man.
I love that. You're taking me back to. I'll give a compliment to my wife. She created this awesome game. The kids loved it. Can we play Shark, Mom? Can we play Shark? So she would sit on the love seat there, kind of where you're at, and the kids would be out in the pool or whatever, and the shark was contained to like the couch area. And whenever they got close, they were grabbed and gotten and pulled and wrestled, and they just loved it. It was endearing for them to and so every night it's like, can we play Shark, Mom? Can we play Shark? So Robot Man and
Robot Man.
I love it.
When you least expect it.
These are endearing, indelible, relationship-oriented memories that we lose in busy schedules, and things like love and logic with developing the relationship with you and your kid is important. So this is all a little bit about parenting. Listen, let's take a quick break, because I have a call to action. If you like what you're hearing and you support the show, we're 250 episodes in. Hit the like button right now on your phone so that you have that. It helps us be found, helps us be seen, helps you to know when we're on. And I want to honor a listener right here, Cass. She said, "Congratulations on 250 podcasts. Think of all the people, what does it say, who tuned in and got some great ideas, some ways to do further research on their own, or to seek some counseling if needed."
We need her on the.
Yeah, we ought to get her come on. We ought to have a listener participation thing, in live and in the person. I mean, listen, it's pretty cool. 250 episodes. We have a sponsor to the show called First Horizon Bank. We appreciate them having joined with us to help us grow the show and to be a part of supporting us and sponsorship. They're a great organization. Neighborhood bank across the nation, Horizon Bank. Where are they sponsored or headquartered?
I think
Do you know yet?
Memphis.
What is it? It's in Tennessee.
Memphis. He just said it.
I wasn't listening.
See, she doesn't listen to me.
No, she listens to you, John.
So.
She just
I
got
do.
tuned out for a minute, but if she were bank at First Horizon, she wouldn't be tuned out. They would teach her about financial responsibility and financial tools, and what's the term, Neil, that he talked about when they were literacy? Thank you. God, my brain was
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
That's
there,
Dave Ramsey.
That's First Horizon Bank.
First Horizon too. Okay.
Yes. So let's get back to what we're talking about and really transition us to the part of the topic that is just not talked about with parenting. And I think that's what led to your thought, John. Like, how's that going to work together?
Mm-hmm.
So
Friendship and parenting.
Let's clarify. Do we mean friendship as like me being a friend towards my child?
No.
Or are we talking about including my friends,
Yes.
the quote unquote village?
It's so
to
funny
bring
that you're
into
even
the
asking that
parenting?
clarification.
Because
I know, right?
when you
Go.
first told me this topic, I assumed
Yeah.
that you were talking about me being a
Right.
friend to my kid, and I was like, "Yep, no,
You
not gonna
assumed you make an ass of you and me.
Right, well, there you go, John. It's true.
Yes.
that was kind of a dad joke statement.
Yeah,
John.
that's
I
a
gotta
dad
give
I
you.
joke.
haven't heard that one in a while.
No, Victoria,
But,
and that's what I saw
mean,
on the
and
show
that's
prep.
where my brain went when
Okay.
you first said that.
Okay, that's what I saw on the show prep. And that's what people talk about. When you mix the idea of parenting and friend, you go to the criticism of parents of trying to be your kid's friend. And we don't want that. But what's interesting to me is it's not even a blip on the screen. It's not even a part of the conversation. Having your own friends still be in your life is a complete afterthought, and that's a part of the lost decade. It drives me nuts because it's so isolating and unhelpful, people. We need to make a change with
Exactly.
this.
Back in the day, when women did not work outside the home, or if they were forced to due to a death or something of that sort,
Yeah.
they had a hard time integrating or reintegrating into the workforce or having friends. They were very isolated. And so feminism, I think, was very good in this area, and that is just that it would encourage people to develop those friendships, women to develop deep and abiding friendships outside of just being with their kids and starting.
Yeah.
And can't even. They did baby talk sometimes and
Yeah.
weren't able to
Get out of it.
Get out of it and make conversations. That's a thing.
Yeah, but I also think it has to do with at what stage in life your friends are.
Oh, I disagree.
For example,
No, let's go.
okay.
Let's go.
It's a rumble.
Okay, so we'll use my own personal life.
That's fine.
For
Okay.
example, I have two best friends who one is technically single. She's not married. She's dating someone, but she's not married, has no kids.
Right.
And my other best friend is not married, but has triplets.
Okay.
And they're about to turn 3.
Okay.
So 3 little girls running around
That's a lot.
that all look the same. And so I would say that, yes, we definitely try to be there for each other, but we don't live. One of them lives in Gastonia with me. The other lives in Charlotte area.
Right.
And the one that lives in Charlotte, I talked to her, but I haven't seen her maybe like 2+ months.
Yeah.
So that's someone and that's because she has a full-time job. She lives in Charlotte. She can't get here that easily to and I've texted her and asked her to babysit a couple times while my husband and I made plans to go somewhere, and she wasn't able to do that, and which is fine. But I mean, she so I think that sometimes it there's not always yes, I consider them a part of my village, but they're not regular every other day, frequently once
Life
a week
gets in
type
the way,
of people.
Victoria. Life absolutely gets in the way, and there's a lot of life that we live with our kids in the home. There's no doubt about that. But at different stages of the family together, when the kids are toddlers or babies, when the kids are in elementary school, when the kids are pre-teens and then teenagers, and then when they're launching, at all of those different stages, I'm going to maintain strongly that we need friendships in our own lives to sustain and support our energies so that we have more to
Okay.
give to the kids.
Okay, now when you say that, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. And that's so missed, though, you know?
Okay, yeah.
And I'm glad that we're having this conversation. It'd be cool to have this conversation again a year from now or so to see how you track with it. Because
Yeah.
you're just in the beginning stages, and you just kind of described it.
It does take a lot of effort for me
Yeah,
to
it's
text my friends
purposeful.
and be like, oh my gosh, I miss y'all's faces. Can I
Right.
see you in person?
Yes.
Not virtually, but can I see you in person?
Intentional.
Intentional,
be
within the next week or so because
and
I
intentional.
miss y'all.
Otherwise, it gets lost. And then when it starts to set into getting lost, you really do enter into what I call at least the lost decade. And then when
Yeah.
you start coming out of that, you're like, what have I been doing this whole time? I haven't had. I haven't had a golf outing. I haven't played a video game. I haven't been to. I'll throw one at you, Victoria. I haven't been to. Listen, I haven't been to a concert because I know you love concerts.
Yeah, I haven't been to Jonas Brothers. I'm wearing my Jonas Brothers shirt.
Oh
It
my
was the
goodness.
But I
the
can
first
imagine.
concert I'd been to in like 7 years.
I don't want that to happen to you.
Yeah,
You've got to hit a concert within the next 5 years at least 2 or 3 times,
I hope so.
right? But
I
that
could see
easily
her
gets lost.
going on a mosh pit. And,
Well,
I think we might be a little. And Neil's like, what the
Neil's
heck?
head just like bobbed.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I do think, yes, we need those friendships to help sustain. And how many times have we had clients who come in and their kids are grown and moved out and they're like, I have no friends.
Nobody's here.
Like,
Yeah.
because my kid's 18 and in college now, and now I'm sitting at home,
Empty nesters.
empty nester or
With
whatever.
somebody that you haven't really hung out with either, because we could do the same kind of conversation
marriage,
with dating
yeah.
your spouse. We miss dating our spouse and engaging our life.
Yeah, I
together.
got to tell you that the relationship between my wife and myself now is so much better now that the kiddos are out of the
Yeah.
Yeah, but
out
that's
of the
not
nest.
doesn't happen forever. Sometimes
No.
people have to work back up to that because
Yeah. Well,
you drift apart. You become like roommates.
Mm-hmm.
no, we definitely aren't roommates.
Yeah, but go a little further with that, John, because I think you do offer an interesting perspective with your kids being now well grown, and you went through these stages. I mean, do
Right,
you remember back
exactly.
in the early stages with teenagers?
Yes, and I remember driving everywhere with them and taking them to places, but we had made a decision, and this is not to say I'm better or anything like that. It was just, I think the nature of the fact that I was a pastor of a church is that I got to be with my kids personally on a or a small group level or one group or working in the Boy Scouts, that sort of thing. Or Girl Scouts was able to do that, and also my wife was able to participate in that, and so we didn't have 2 cars going to do 2 different places all the time.
Well, and
And,
yeah, and we have individual factors for families. I mean,
Yeah.
there's lots of little intricacies like that.
Yeah, and then I said later after the kids were grown is that we did have to get to know each other a little bit more, and
Yeah.
a lot more. I think there's also the issue of my wife having some chronic illness
Mm-hmm.
that
Plays a part.
plays a part in that. But we were able to start going on dates. We started going to concerts. We would go to the symphony, and that was that was our concerts.
Well,
And
and
so-
I
I
think
love
the
the
thing that
symphony.
needs to be mentioned is there's a reality and a mix in here that's unavoidable. You really do have a crucial lack of energy and time.
Mhm.
Kids require a lot. They do take a certain amount of spirit out of your system, energy out of your body, and that's part of being a parent. But at the same time, you can, with purposefulness, even if it's not the weekly get up at the
Right.
the bar or the play and getting out all the time. Life's gonna be different, man. I mean, you're not gonna have the same life when they leave the home, John. You can recover that. While they're still there, though, there needs to be some. That's
So,
my.
are you saying it almost sounds like you're saying you could almost apply the 2-2-2 rule to
Two.
to friendships? Do you know about the 2-2-2
Okay,
rule?
what is the 2-2-2
Okay,
rule?
the 2-2-2 rule is used a lot in marriages that says every 2 weeks you go on a date night. Every 2 months you go on a overnight trip, like a weekend trip. Every 2 years you go on a week-long trip, vacation somewhere.
Okay.
So that's the 2-2-2 rule with marriages. But it almost sounds like you're saying that you maybe not follow that exact thing time wise, but to almost
Yeah.
do the same thing, but with friendships,
I
so
think
that
so.
that way, you're keeping that connection there. You're keeping the emotional support, the whatever they provide for you from
I
that friendship. That
admire
is,
I admire mostly clients that I've heard this honestly, and I admire mostly clients that I've heard that continue to designate a priority. Hey, this is my once a year golf outing. Us guys get together, we go to Myrtle Beach. It's what we do. That's invaluable, and if that's all you get set up with your friends, I'm happy with that.
Now, I agree. I agree. I think you should do that, and that's one thing that I've tried to do in my life, although often unsuccessful. But part of it is that I see this more with men, is that they like to go on the golf outings all the time, and
Well,
don't-
yeah, limits.
and so they don't spend time with their kiddos
Yeah.
or their spouse.
they also don't give their wives time to go do their own thing.
Absolutely. This needs to be a balanced reality where girls long weekend, guys long weekend, about once, maybe twice a year. That's not a lot.
No,
That's-
it isn't.
It's not a lot,
And it's reasonable.
but it's so valuable because you have that regular connection, and then you're on the phone and doing FaceTime and texting and
It's also
sharing.
extremely difficult though sometimes.
It really is.
when you're matching up schedules.
It
And
really
when
is.
when you're talking about matching
Life
up
gets
schedules
in the
and
way.
finances. Okay, well I don't get paid
there's
till the
another
end of the
reality.
month, but then you get paid. You don't get paid, and then
Well,
it's.
they need to do Dave Ramsey. Now, I'm
One of the trifecta.
But I think that, and that's what. Okay, and I think I've said this before, but all the three of us, my best friends and I, we all turned 30 this year.
Yeah.
All of us turned 30 this year. And we had originally, at the end of last year, we had originally talked about, like, hey, since we're all turning 30, like, let's go on a trip together.
Yep.
And we'll just go on a trip and we'll celebrate all three of our birthdays together.
Gets lost.
It's November 2nd. And do you
Yep.
think we've gone on a trip? And have we
2023.
planned one?
It's ending.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And so it'll probably be next year. And if not, and that's the thing is, like,
Gets pushed.
it just gets
Pushed.
pushed and it's pushed, and then it's now almost the end of the year and we haven't even celebrated our birthdays together.
Have you been able to get their kids to have grandparents take the kids? Would they be?
Yeah, but then sometimes that doesn't match up. Like my parents might be able to watch my kid, but my parents can't watch my kid and triplets. So then it's like,
What about her?
Like,
Yeah.
and then her mom may not be able to do it. And then it's like, it's just this whole, and sometimes it's not for lack of trying.
And you know what's sad, Victoria? It begins, listen, because I can hear your tone. I can hear
Yeah.
you go through this, and you're experiencing this. Do that for a few years. John, you correct me if I'm wrong. Does it not begin to feel like, you know what? This would be nice, but it's just not worth it.
That's what I'm saying is I don't want, like, then you don't want it to get to that point.
Right.
Like, oh, I haven't seen this person in 2 years
And
or
that
really
sucks,
hung out with
but,
them,
you
but they're
know.
my best friend, And it's different. Like, I have a lifelong best friend that lives in Georgia. So, like, naturally, because she lives in Georgia, I don't see her, but really whenever she comes up here to visit family. And so, but then we definitely, like, make sure to see each other when she's up here, kind of thing. And so it's just,
So I'm hearing there's a sense with you of feeling harried, just harried and hurried, and there's a little bit of weariness thrown in the mix as well, because how are you going to do this and to do this with your homies? I mean, you're three.
right. And then plus, as my kid gets older and our schedule gets busier, being more intentional about setting that time for
So maybe we
the
need
friendships.
to simplify our lives a little bit.
Oh,
Maybe
that would be nice.
I think it is simplification, John, but I think really more so, honestly, it really is about prioritizing.
Intentionality.
Intentionality and purposefulness. Let's get a little excited about why we want to do this. Think about what friendship, while you being a parent with each other, only one can be a parent or both can be a parent. And you have both, Victoria.
Yeah.
You know, the emotional support that you get is necessary.
I mentioned that earlier too. Yeah.
You have got to have emotional support. Look, when you become a new parent, and I know women get blamed more for being like the paranoid parent. Listen, I was paranoid just as much, wondering if we're doing this or should we do that or what's the right thing that I should provide. Should I get this baby seat? You know, there's about 10 different baby seats you can get in the store now, John.
Oh, there's more than that.
yeah. Oh,
Talking about car seats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's like 20 plus
You know,
different.
you need a friend to give you support. It's like, look, Vic, stop. It's just, you know, it's fine. To reassure, to.
Do you
Because,
know how many times I texted my friend with triplets and I was like, hey, which one did you buy? Okay, great. That sounds wonderful. I'll get that too.
you have so many fears developmentally. You know, should I do AAU basketball? You know, should I get a batting coach? You know, should I sign him up for the team? Should I have him complete the season? He wants to quit. How do I?
Piano lessons.
It's
whatever.
on and
yeah.
on and on.
but they miss childhood.
Right.
And again, they need to be bored a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Agreed.
And maybe parents need to be a little bored. And so, okay,
Yeah.
veg out a little bit and enjoy the, you know.
And get off my lawn. No, I'm just kidding, John.
Yes. Arr.
You know, John, it's true. And we and look, people look as an outsider at what it is that you're dealing with. And all of these activities, look, they're great. Cub Scouts was transformational in my kids' youth, although they totally resented the Boy Scouts and, you know, and whatnot, didn't want to do it, and we stopped. But we're not saying no activities.
Right.
We're saying slow down, get emotional support, understand
Prioritize.
when you have these fears about the developmental stages all the way through launching out of the home, friends can normalize your anxieties about it.
But I also think it means, and correct me if you disagree because my kid, again, is only 19 months, but I think it also means listening to your kid when they vocalize their opinion about the activities that you sign them up for.
Well, yeah.
For example, okay, if I sign my kid up for soccer when he's 2 or 3 or whatever, and after a season of it, he's like, hates it, right? Every game he hates, every practice he hates. And yeah, necessarily I don't want him to like be a quitter, quote unquote, but I feel like it also is part of respecting, like, I don't want to force him to continue to do something that he obviously doesn't want to do, and maybe we could instead spend that time at home together. Or
Okay,
like,
we're going to get off of schedules and
Okay.
such because we've hit that pretty good. And I want to highlight a lot of the friendship stuff, but we got Mr. Neal with a microphone.
I was gonna say,
you
I saw
know,
Neal
he's
bring out the
he's burning
microphone.
over there. What you got, Mr. Robinson?
I would agree with Victoria. With both of our kids, we put them in sports. It stuck with one, didn't stick with the other. We put them both in piano. It stuck with one, but not the other. I think it's very important to expose our kids, see what they like or don't like, because if you don't expose them to it, they won't know. But you have to listen. You have to say, what do they like or don't like? With Mason, our oldest, who's in the marching band, just got grand champion. There's
Yes,
Yay!
he did. I know, man.
there's
It's
a-
awesome.
There's a day of whatever. They did some proclamation in Gramberton, which was cool. But he hated practicing. But when we said, hey, we're going to take you out of piano lessons, he was like, oh, no, I need to practice. So they still hated practice because he's a kid, but he still had the love and desire to do music. And so you
Right.
have to take that time to understand the difference between a kid just not wanting to do it because they're a kid. Even adults don't like to practice. And as you pointed out, it's not their thing.
right.
So I wholeheartedly agree, and I think there's a lot of parents who just kind of go through that process and just shove it down their kid's throat, and you just have to do it.
Well, I
And
would
I-
agree with you because my son, John Daniel, or Day, learned how to play the violin, and he he had somebody that said, "You got to practice, practice, practice." She was Russian, and so he started to resent it, and so we had to back off. But he's still musical.
That's funny. I gotta point out. We got old Cass out there. She's like, yeah, I was bored at my job. She's like, I was bored at my job, became an artist and a cartoonist, and I'd never have thought of either of those talents if I wasn't bored. So we all agree. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But let's finish up on some of these things to get you excited about
Neil.
having the friendships. Yes, thank you for that, Neil. You know, socialization for parents is a big factor as well. Like you said, you literally get into baby talk when you're alone at home. I took a parent leave and was home for a month, and I loved it. It was one of the best things I ever was able to do. It was so awesome.
First of all,
And-
after your sorry,
And
Oh,
go ahead.
no,
Not
I
to
was
interrupt,
I was
sorry,
I was
really
in the
got
Navy,
interrupted you.
and my son was born, and
Oh, no.
had 3 days of labor for my wife, C-section, and I didn't get to see him for a full week afterwards
Oh,
because I was
no.
on duty.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
so
That sucks.
I was telling you how
Yeah,
hard
I
life
got
was
parent leave for
back
whole,
in the day.
a whole month. Yeah,
All
I
right,
wasn't quite back
I
in
was
the day.
teasing. Go ahead.
Well, and I appreciate your service, John. If I've told you before,
Thank you.
But you get advice, you get shared experiences. You literally combine efforts together, and you share childcare. We had a friend that stayed with us and it was super patient, like because we were probably so consumed with our activities, and she engaged. She ended up keeping the kids a time for a whole week, allowing us to take a trip. You know, the finding like-minded and values and supporting your challenges to maintain those values in the home, that you get so much pressure from society. Like friends create so much benefit. The balance that you get in life. I mean, I could just go on, but I just
I
want
think
people to be
friendship
excited
also
about it.
provides like validation in a sense, especially
Encouragement.
especially when you're friends with other parents. Which I mean, non-parents can give you some validation, but
They
it's
can,
nice.
but
Right, it's
there's
they-
a but.
Yeah, they don't.
Here's
have
a big qualifier. And you see it on the bottom of our show prep. There is a reality that parents do need to know, and non-parents, listen, love your friends that have kids and help them, support them. I hope that this show gives you a little bit of insight, because if you're not a parent, you really can't understand those
It
pressures
is.
and stresses.
But it is nice to have validation from fellow parents when you're going through struggles of parenting and when you're having some, whether it's a crisis or like
feel
doubt
doubtful.
or whatever. Yeah, then you can go to
Right.
your, like I can go to my friend and I've talked to her multiple times. Like I feel like I'm crazy doing this or that or whatever, and she'll say, you know, I felt the same way when I was when my kids were that age, or you're not alone, and that's very nice to
It's
hear.
so powerful.
People are so I mean, they can do great things. They can be politicians, multi-billionaires, and have all these talents and be the best surgeon in the world or the greatest teacher. But you know, if your primary and greatest task, I think, is if you get that opportunity to be a parent and to raise a child, I think that's your most important job, because if you bring a life into a person into being, that's a wonderful and holy thing.
You know,
I don't
John,
think everybody has that same viewpoint, but yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
think
I
of
know, but that's
I can't
yeah.
think of a better way to sum us up and to take us out, John. I appreciate those thoughts. I think that is absolutely on point. Listen, let your friends be your friends. Reach out to your friends and make new friends as you go through this awesome responsibility and experience, John, that you just
I
put
was like,
words
becoming
to.
a parent also gives you greater opportunity to make more friends.
If we do it. And I
Yeah.
reference our show last time. Friends, do we miss them? Do we miss the opportunities to do that? Because there
Right.
are far and wide opportunities if you reach out. So this is a good combination of last show and this show.
Also, I remember what I was going to say earlier when I interrupted you.
Okay, got you. Go.
Just real quick. Please stop talking to your baby in baby talk after they are an infant. After your child is older than an infant, there's no need to talk in baby talk. It hinders their language development.
Okay,
Okay, there's my spiel.
Victoria with a pet peeve working with
yeah,
many
it
a
is.
child.
I'm
All right,
just
listen.
saying.
I hope that we've gotten you some things to think about, things to reach out for, things to be purposeful with, so that you really are less alone in the awesome experience of raising your kids. Take care, be well, and we'll